Okay, it's time to look at comparing numbers using greater, less than, or equal to signs. Now, I follow a very specific process with this. It very much so is possible for you to guess. But as you start moving through the year groups, these kind of numbers start becoming more complicated. They don't end up having the same number of place values, and it does become challenging to identify without using all the proper steps. Now, we do these videos to show you every little which way you can make sure that you or your children, if you're looking at this video as a parent, can get these questions right. And that's why in this blue box over here I have 4 steps that we can use to get the correct answers when finding the greater, less than, or equal to in terms of a calculation. So let's have a look at the question. The question I've got over here is I have 343, I have a box, and I have 425. And what the question will want me to do is it'll want me to utilize the greater than, less than, or equal to sign to get the right answer. Very simply, straight from the off, we say think of the greater than, less than sign as a crocodile. Now the crocodile always wants to eat the most amount of food possible. He's got 2 different amounts here that he can eat, but he's always going to go to the largest amount possible. Do you not think? You know that is it. He's it could be me there, to be honest. Could be a picture of me. I'm always going to try and eat the larger amount. So that is the best way to remember it, is that bite is going to go towards the largest amount.
Did you know some crocodiles only eat once a year? They wait in the river. When the wildebeest cross, they might eat 3 or 4. They always eat as many as they can because they often don't eat for a whole another year. So they definitely need to eat the biggest number they can.
So this is the easiest way for us to identify that. If we're ever looking at trying to identify which way we should be pointing the greater than or less than sign, we need to identify that where the mouth is open, that is where the crocodile is gearing towards eating. I could even do a little pictorial representation. Further proof that the greater than, less than side is in fact just one big crocodile. Pretty good teeth, isn't it? Not bad teeth. No,
very good.
No, not bad at all. Let's go to the question then, and let's look at these steps here as well in the middle of the page. The first step says hats and caps with a capital letter, because I'm a big admirer of hats and caps. Mr. Sewell is as well. And whenever the questions, whenever the little, silly, I call them silly sausage answers come in where children make mistakes, so they don't do things like that. Put in the hats and caps. And I'll tell you why hats and caps are important later on.
What else might teachers call those? We always call them hats and caps. Maybe they call them column headers.
Column headers, yeah.
Just trying to cover everything.
I only remember using hats and caps. Well, the hats and caps is not very important with this one because they are 2 of the same amount of digits. So we have 3 place value digits here. We have 3 place value digits on the right hand side.
It just checks though, doesn't it?
It just checks and makes sure, so that when you do the comparison, you know exactly what is going on. Number 2, it says underline the highest place value. So we're going to underline the highest place value out of these 2 numbers. So obviously the 100 is the highest place value here, and the 300 is the highest place value there. And that's really, really important because that's going to show us that if there were 2 different place values, we'd be able to compare straight away. But we can't, because as it says in number 3, if the place values are the same, compare the size of the actual digits themselves. Now, as you can see over on the right hand side, the 100 is representative of 4 hundreds, and the hundreds on this side is 300. Simple. Which one is the larger one? Of course it's 4, and the crocodile is going to want to eat 425.
You would rather eat 425 wildebeest than 343, wouldn't you?
Well, I said earlier that hats and caps is important. In the last question, the hats and caps wasn't that important because there were 2 of the 2 amount that had the same amount of place value. But what if we get something like this? 400 and 23. Now, of course, clearly you can see that is the case, that the larger number is the 400. But what happens though when these numbers do start getting larger and you are having to really squint to see the difference in the place value? But the best places to start is right at the start, right at year 3 level, is identifying that is a unit, that is a 10, that is a unit, that is a 10, that is 100. Underline the highest place value. The highest place value is 100 here, the highest place value is a 10 there. We don't need to do step 3 because we've already got a 100 value, which is much higher than that of a 10 value. So therefore, the crocodile is going to want to eat the 400 as opposed to the 23. How would I say this in a number line? 400 is greater than 23. It goes like a number line. It goes from left to right. You would say the number sentence, 400 is greater than 23. Okay, so here's another question over here. It's just, we got 625. We have our block where we are supposed to identify whether the number is greater than, less than, or equal to. And the second number is 617. Two numbers that are quite close together. There's not a real distinct difference there. There is obviously a difference, but we need to utilize our ability, all of our steps to make sure that we've got this absolutely spot on. So it says number 1, hats and caps. Get your hats and caps in. You might not need it for this one, but it's fine.
Just do it.
We're gonna make sure we get this question right, because these kind of questions are the ones that you'll get in SATs, and you'll get maybe make a silly sausage mistake, like I said earlier.
When we move on the level of this with decimals, it's full of tricks.
Absolutely, and this will get more complex as we go through this video itself. So if you want to move on a little bit quicker, you can fast forward slightly, but I would recommend just go through the video slowly. Make sure you're doing the steps. Learn the process right from the beginning through to the end. And you could be in year 3 and going all the way up to the year 5 and 6 stuff. Who knows? Number 2, it says underline the highest place value. The highest place value is the 100 on this side, and the highest place value is the 100 on this side. Now, Mr. Sewell, it says if the place values are the same, compare the size of the digits. But we have a problem here. What is the problem that you see?
They're both worth 600.
Now that is a problematic thing, isn't it? So what we're going to do is we're going to have to go to the place value next door. So as you can see, we're going to the tens, and we're finding out that on this side we have 2 tens, and on this side we have 1 10. So we can compare that 620 is going to be larger than that 610. How do we know which way to put the sign? Well, the crocodile is going to always want to eat the larger amount. Okay, so I've moved the crocodile aside and I've put the success criteria slightly more to the left because we're going to start going into slightly higher numbers. Now, when you get into slightly higher numbers, your viewing might be deceived by just not looking properly at what the actual place value amounts are. So I've made it too high to do hats and caps here. But as you can see, this number has 4 digits and this number has 5. But where you could go wrong is you could say that 4 is larger than that value of 1, which is not true because the 1 is actually the 5th digit in a number, which means that is a far higher value of number.
I think we could squeeze the hats in there, couldn't we, Mr.
Should we try it? Just a quick little squeeze. We've got units, you've got your tens, you've got your hundreds, and you've got your thousands. You see now that is problematic when you think initially without checking properly that is not 1,000. If we have a look carefully, put our hats and caps on, guess what? We are going to be able to identify that this is not 1,000. This is in fact a 10,000 amount, which means that straight away the place values are really far higher than what the place value is on this number over here. So clearly the crocodile wants to eat that amount there. Okay, well let's start making things more difficult. I think you are all doing really well. I'm sure you're pausing and giving it a go. I pause now and give this one a go and then watch the video after to see how we've done this. Now, Mr. Saul, this is your idea. I think it's a fantastic idea that we mix up the numbers but have some form of consistency there, so it can almost trick us, and without using our steps we could possibly come unstuck, couldn't we? Okay, well let's go step by step. Let's make sure we get this right. So we put our hats and caps in to make sure that we identify with how many place values there are. Now I've made a mistake straight away. I wonder if you can find it yourself. Is I didn't carefully enough identify which place values of each number because I've squidge the numbers together to make sure I can get a larger number in.
We see children do this all the time.
All the time, yes. That's what, I'm going to leave that in the video.
And Mr. Blum knows what he's doing, but he still does this. Like sometimes I do. You've got to find your mistakes if you made them. So well done, Mr. Blum.
Thank you very much. Well, there you go. And I'm going to put the comment in to identify the separation of the hundreds and thousands, because we are starting getting into the higher place values now, and the higher in key stage 2. And then we go and do the exact same over here. We've got a unit, we've got a 10. I've got to make sure I do it carefully. I don't want to make the same mistake I did last time. As you can see, I've done it again. I've not put it carefully enough so that a place value is in between two numbers. It's got to be right on top of the number that you are identifying. So this 100 needs to be exactly on top of that place value over there. This needs to be on top over here. And then we got our 10,000s. It's a bit squished up, but at least I think I've got it spot on. So we've got our hats and caps. We've done number 1. Number 2, we're going to underline the highest place value of each number. The highest place value on the number on the right is 7, and the highest place value on the number on the left is, of course, also 7. So we've done step 1. We're going to tick it. We've done step 2. It's as if the place values are the same. Compare the size of the digits. Now, we can't compare the sizes of the digits because Mr. Sewell's been very mean by putting the 70,000 as the exact same amount. So we have to go to the next place value to see if we can do a comparison. And look what happened again. Guess what? The two values are again the same in the thousands. Do we give up and just write equals to? No, because we have values on the values of the other digits that might be able to show us which one is bigger. Let's go again. Let's move to the next number. We have 800s and we have 700s. So just to highlight there, that 8 over there, which is the next largest place value, is clearly larger than the 700 over there. Do I make sure? Yes, look at that. That 100, that is 100, that too is 100. Compare the 7 and the 8. Yes, there is a clearly larger number, even though it took a while for us to get going, and that is this number over here, which is 78,000. Put the comma in. 878.